I will now move to the video gaming information. There are 11,670 video gaming devices activated at 1,385 locations. Our system generated these numbers based on revenue reporting locations, so this number does not reflect the number of devices and locations operating currently, as some continue to be out of service due to Hurricane Ida. Net device revenue for September 2021 was $55.2 million, a decrease of 5.8% when compared to August 2021, but an increase of $740,000 or 1.4% when compared to last September. Total franchise fees for September 2021 totaled $16.9 million, a decrease from August 2021, and an increase of $318,000 when compared to September 2020. Franchise fees previously not collected due to Governor Edwards' proclamation and the subsequent order issued by Chairman Johns to delay the collection of fees after Hurricane Ida have now been collected. Net device revenue for fiscal year 2022 to date is $187.7 million, an increase of $17 million, or 10% when compared to fiscal year 2021, and an increase of $37.6 million, or 25% when compared to fiscal year 2020. Total franchise fees collected for fiscal year 2022 to date are approximately $57 million, an increase of $4.9 million, or 9.5% when compared to fiscal year 2021, and an increase of $12 million, or 27% when compared to fiscal year 2020.
Okay. So had not it been for Hurricane Ida, we may have been pretty much on the rebound. And from the numbers that I'm looking at, it looks like the Lake Charles market has rebounded very well from Hurricane Laura, which hit in August of 2020.
Correct.
And then Shreveport-Bossier market seems to be holding its own, and the Baton Rouge market appears to be holding its own. So if we can do away with hurricanes and pandemics in our state, we would really be looking pretty good. So are there any questions from the board members? Ms. Jackson, I have no questions from board members. Thank you very much for your report this morning, and thank you for your hard work. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. All right. Moving along into casino gaming issues. The first thing on our agenda this morning will be the consideration of the certificate of compliance for the alternate riverboat inspection of the Catfish Queen Partnership doing business as the Belle of Baton Rouge. Good morning.
Good morning. Chairman Johns, board members, I'm Assistant Attorney General Canick Lewis Jr., and with me is Mr. John Franczyk of ABSG Consulting. We're here in the matter of the issuance of the Certificate of Compliance to Catfish Queen Partnership in Commendam, doing business as the Belle of Baton Rouge Casino. On March 2nd, 2021, ABSG began its inspection process for the approval of the Certificate of Compliance for the Belle of Baton Rouge. The board issued temporary certificates to the Belle during the months of May through September 2021 to allow the licensee additional time to resolve its fire sprinkler pump discrepancy. Mr. Franczyk will now provide details of the inspection.
Good morning, Chairman.
Good
board
morning,
members.
John. How are you this morning?
Doing good, sir.
Welcome to Baton Rouge.
Thank you. John Franczyk with ABSG Consulting, here to give you an update on the Belle of Baton Rouge fire sprinkler pump. During the last one, they were waiting for parts to get in, so those parts finally did arrive. They put it together and they did a test. Third party did a performance test, and the pump turned out to be working in good order. So we completed that discrepancy, and it is the recommendation of ABSG Consulting is to issue the certificate of compliance for a full term to expire on May 31st, 2022.
So the part did arrive.
It
Finally.
arrived. Yes.
No more temporary extensions. So that's wonderful. That's great. Thank you both of you for your hard work on this. Are there any questions from our board members?
Chairman.
Yes, I'm sorry.
One other thing.
Yes.
We now present these findings to the board, and we request that upon the board's acceptance of ABSG's report that you would move for the issuance of the certificate of compliance, like Mr. Franczyk said, for the Belle that would expire on May 21st, 2022.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lewis.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Okay, any questions from our board members? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for the Belle of Baton Rouge. Mr. Avan has moved that we issue the certificate of compliance, second by Ms. Lewis. Is there any questions on the motion? Any objection to that motion? Hearing none, that motion is adopted. Okay. Next will be the consideration of certification of compliance for the inspection of the gaming vessel of Louisiana Gaming doing business as Boomtown, New Orleans. Good morning.
Chairman Johns, members of the board, I'm Assistant Attorney General Charlie Picu. Here with me is Mr. John Francis of ABSG Consulting. We're here in the matter of the issuance of the annual certificate of compliance to Louisiana iGaming, a Louisiana partnership in Commendam doing business as Boomtown, New Orleans. On August 25th, 2021, ABSG began the inspection process for the approval of Boomtown, New Orleans annual certificate of compliance. Mr. Francis will now present his findings to the board.
Okay.
Chairman, board members, John Francis with ABSG Consulting, here to report the annual certification for Boomtown, New Orleans. The inspectors, Doug Chapman and Pete Bowler, did on August 25th attend the Dockside Riverboat Boomtown Belle 2 to conduct the annual inspection in accordance with the alternative inspection of riverboat gaming vessels in the state of Louisiana. The inspectors reviewed fire protection equipment, egress routes, mooring system, life safety items, and conducted a fire drill. There were deficiencies found during the inspection that can be found on page 6 of the report. A follow-up inspection to all deficient items was conducted on October 13th. All items were inspected and found corrected and satisfactory. The 2021 annual inspection is now considered complete. It is recommendation of ABSG Consulting that Boomtown, New Orleans be issued the certificate of compliance.
Okay, thank you, John. So all deficiencies have been addressed and are satisfactory.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
We now present these findings to the board and request that upon the board's acceptance of ABSG's report that you move for the issuance of the annual certificate of compliance.
Okay, thank you very much. I would entertain a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for Louisiana Gaming doing business as Boomtown, New Orleans. Ms. Traylor moves that we issue the certificate of compliance, second by Mr. Poole. Is there any discussion on that motion? Is there any objection to that motion? Hearing none, that motion is adopted. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you again, John. Okay, moving along. We will now take up the consideration of the joint petition of Harris Shreveport Bossier City Investment Company and Rubico Gaming for the approval of the transfer of ownership of Harris Bossier City Investment Company doing business as Harris Louisiana Downs. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Johns, board members. I'm Assistant Attorney General Jeremy Gath, and I handled the review of the proposed acquisition of Louisiana Downs. Present and reporting with me today is Miss Evie Ficklin of Louisiana State Police Audit and Senior Trooper Shannon Simpson of Louisiana State Police Gaming Enforcement. Rubico and Caesars are also present, and Rubico will follow State Police with a brief presentation. Okay. Harris Shreveport Bossier City Investment Company, LLC, and Rubico Gaming, LLC, filed an original joint petition with the board seeking the approval of a proposed transfer of ownership in Harris Bossier City Investment Company, LLC, doing business as Harris Louisiana Downs. Louisiana Downs is a licensed eligible racing facility located in Bossier Parish and holds a slots at the track gaming license. The slots at the track gaming license is why the transfer is relevant to the board. There are two parts of the transfer. It's the sale of a membership interest in Louisiana Downs through an equity purchase agreement, and the sale of the real property where Louisiana Downs is located. Pursuant to the equity purchase agreement, Harris Shreveport Bossier intends to sell its membership interest in Louisiana Downs to Rubico Acquisition Corporation. Pursuant to the real property sale agreement, Rubico Acquisition intends to purchase the rights, title, and interest in the real property from Vici. Thereafter, Rubico Acquisition will assign its rights, title, and interest in the real property to Ladd Landco LLC, which will then lease the real property to the licensee. Board approval is required for these transactions. Rubico Acquisition will fund the acquisition of Louisiana Downs through a revolver with the Western Alliance Bank, a subordinated loan agreement with Thomas Benninger, and a warrant and equity contributions. All relevant persons have submitted to a suitability investigation. At the beginning of its investigation, Global Leverage Capital Management LLC, an investment management firm owned by Thomas Benninger, and Global Leverage Capital Partners and Company LLC, a private investment and advisory firm also owned by Mr. Benninger, along with its affiliates, served as original parties to the financing documents and a management agreement respectively. Due to this relationship, those entities were initially required to submit to suitability by the division, and after several requests, these entities finally submitted. On April 29, 2021, Rubico provided the division with an elimination of the entities from the transactional documents and management agreement. And based on these changes, it was determined that the entities were no longer required to submit. Generally, the board at its discretion may place conditions on a gaming license, for example, quarterly reporting, a compliance officer at the licensed facility, and so on. These measures have been placed into the proposed conditions should the board approve the transactions as regulatory safeguards and to ensure compliance with and the integrity of the gaming industry in the state of Louisiana. There is a procedural requirement set forth by law that any time there's a transfer of more than 50% of the ownership interest in the slots at the track licensee, or a transfer that results in a change of control, a new license must be issued. The transfer of Louisiana Downs to Rubico Acquisition Corporation results in both a change of ownership that's greater than 50% and a change of control in the licensee. Therefore, should the board approve these transfers, the currently issued slot license of Louisiana Downs will be surrendered and a new license will be issued. If it is the board's pleasure to approve the proposed transactions and related financing, a resolution has been prepared for the board's consideration and the chairman's signature upon approval. And I will now turn the presentation over to State Police.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Evie Ficklin. I'm an auditor with Louisiana State Police. Rubico Gaming LLC formed its wholly owned subsidiary, Rubico Acquisition Corp., or RAC, in July 2020 to acquire gaming properties in the Midwest and the South. If approved by the board, RAC's first acquisition will be Louisiana Downs. Louisiana Downs operations and the real estate assets underlying Louisiana Downs are owned by separate companies. Caesars Entertainment, Inc. owns the operating company. Louisiana licensee, Harrah's Bossier City Investment Company, LLC, or HBCIC. And Bossier City, LLC, owns Louisiana Downs real property assets. Bossier City, LLC is a subsidiary of Vici Properties, Inc., a publicly traded REIT. RAC's purchase price to acquire the equity interest in HBCIC and its related operations is $16.5 million. Its cost to acquire the real property assets from Harrah's Bossier City is $5.5 million. Each transaction is detailed in separate purchase agreements signed by RAC and the sellers on September 3, 2020. Fees related to the acquisitions are estimated at $1.9 million. RAC's total $23.9 million cost to acquire Louisiana Downs is shown allocated in the Sources and Uses of Funds schedule on page 20. RAC plans to finance the total $23.9 million acquisition cost using a combination of borrowed funds, the proceeds from the sale of penny warrants, and capital contributed by Mr. Thomas Benninger, Rubico Gaming LLC's sole member and manager. The borrowed funds will provide an aggregated $18.5 million of the $23.9 million Louisiana Downs acquisition cost and related fees. In connection to the borrowed financing, RAC is party to two loan agreements: a senior loan that provides for a $16 million reducing revolving line of credit with Western Alliance Bank, and a $3 million 6-year subordinated loan with sole lender and administrative agent Mr. Benninger. RAC will use $15.5 million of the $16 million loan at closing. The 5-year senior loan provides for scheduled commitment reductions of $275,000 per month, beginning the first full quarter after closing and continuing throughout the long term. The senior loan includes an up to $5 million incremental loan provision. RAC will use the entire proceeds from the $3 million subordinated loan at closing. The subordinated loan has an interest rate of 13%. Rubico has the option to pay up to 3% of the interest payment in paid-in-kind payments, or PIK. Loan payments made in PIK will be added to the outstanding principal of the subloan. Rubico Gaming plans to sell penny warrants at closing, which will provide an additional $270,000 in funding toward the acquisition. Rubico Gaming is selling the warrants to accredited investors at $1 a warrant. The warrant's exercise price is also $1. Finally, Mr. Benninger has contributed a total of $3.645 million in capital to Rubico Gaming beginning August 12, 2020. Rubico Gaming used a portion of Mr. Benninger's capital contributions on September 3, 2020 to satisfy the $1 million earnest money deposit required under the terms of its equity purchase agreement with Caesars. Louisiana Downs projections are shown on page 59, and its capital expenditure projections are shown on page 60. Its capital expenditures shown in year 2021 include $2 million for its development of an IT infrastructure to support its operations post-closing. RAC plans to use $2 million of closing cash to fund the IT capex. RAC management provided the information in the liquidity analysis on page 61. Rubico Gaming and RAC are newly formed standalone entities with limited financial histories. Aside from external borrowing and the proceeds from warrant sales, RAC's sole source of funding is Mr. Benninger's private financial accounts. Mr. Benninger has provided documentation reflecting his personal financial holdings. Aside from concerns due to the limited financial histories of Rubico Gaming, LLC, and Rubico Acquisition Corp., and the associated risk with standalone companies lacking the financial backing of an established parent company, no issues came to audit's attention to preclude the board's approval of the transfer of interest in Louisiana Downs to RAC and the related financing. Senior Trooper Simpson will now give the results of his report.
Good morning, Chairman John.
Good morning.
Board members. I'm Senior Trooper Shannon Simpson with the Louisiana State Police Gaming Enforcement Division. On September 23, 2020, the Louisiana State Police Gaming Enforcement Division received notification of a joint petition requesting for approval on a proposed purchase agreement submitted on behalf of Harris Shreveport Bossier City Investment Company, LLC, Harris Bossier City, LLC, Rubico Acquisition Corporation, and Rubico Gaming, LLC. On October 5, 2020, the party submitted an amended petition to the division. HSBCI has entered into an agreement where RAC would purchase all of the equity interests in the license. Therefore, furthermore, HBC has entered into an agreement where RAC would purchase all of the real property located in Harris, Louisiana Downs. The division conducted a suitability investigation on the officers and directors of Rubico Gaming, LLC, and Rubico Acquisition Corporation and their officers, directors, persons with 5% or more ownership with the companies. All of the individuals in the investigation have met suitability through Rubico Gaming, LLC, and Rubico Acquisition Corporation. Criminal inquiries were made through states of Louisiana Criminal History Database. Tax clearance request forms were forwarded to the Louisiana Department of Revenue in order to ensure compliance or current with their tax filings. During this suitability investigation, no information was found that would preclude the board from approving the joint petition of the equity interests of the real properties purchased.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. This has been quite a journey, hasn't it? Mm-hmm. And how long has it been since we started this process?
September of 2020, I believe.
Okay, a little over a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, So I know we're going to have some questions for Rubico as they come up to the table. And I think I have some questions from the board members. Ms. Berry?
Hi, thank you for the extensive report. I appreciate it. I just wanted to verify a couple of things with you, Mr. Gath, and y'all were not concerned at all about the reluctance to submit the suitability investigations in the beginning? Was there a reason why they were reluctant to do that? Or they were just not familiar with the process? Or
Those were definitely areas of concern. And there are instances where applicants and state police will disagree on who's required to submit to suitability. Our office stands completely by state police whenever they, told Rubico that these particular entities were required to submit. But since then, Rubico has eliminated those particular entities from the transaction. So their relevance here, they're no longer relevant. The I guess refusal to submit is something that the board should take into consideration. We do have conditions that are implemented on licenses in order for a particular licensee to maintain compliance. And if it is the board's pleasure, and whether you believe that the safeguards that are within the conditions are sufficient, such as the necessity of a compliance officer at the
I think you were reading my mind there. I guess it just concerns me on the reluctance, and then I wanted to make sure that in the resolution we did have the quarterly reporting, the compliance officer, and at the facility. Is that going to be in?
That is listed in the conditions for the license, in order for them to maintain the license.
How long do you think that would last, that condition, those conditions?
The conditions are, they're going to last as long as the licensee holds the license.
Okay. All right, I guess that answers my questions. If y'all are comfortable with it, and that is in the resolution, so, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Are there any other questions at this time for our presenters at the table? Thank you all very much for your hard work on this. I will just say this publicly, as I'm new to this job. I've only been here about 3 months, but as chairman, I do know that as chairman, and I think I speak for the entire board, we take very, very seriously compliance with requests from state police and from the Attorney General's office. And I'm not pointing this just at Rubico. I'm saying this publicly to anybody out there that if you're asked for information, we would take very seriously that information is presented in a very timely and a very compliant manner. So thank you for holding steadfast on that. And so I guess at this point in time, we'd like to ask Rubico to come up and make their presentation. And gentlemen, why don't y'all come join us at the table? I think joining us today will be Mr. Tom Benninger with Rubico Gaming, Mr. Kevin Preston with Rubico, and Mr. Ryan O'Byrne?
O'Byrne, correct.
O'Byrne, okay. Good Irish name?
Good Irish name.
All right.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Board members.
With Rubico also. So gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to our meeting this morning. I know this has been a long time coming for you and for us both. And so if y'all would like to proceed with a presentation of whatever you want to present to us this morning, I know there's going to be some questions as to where we go forward. So,
Yeah, you want to go ahead?
Sure, why don't I go ahead? I'm Tom Benninger.
good morning.
Good morning. First of all, I want to tell you how pleased we are to be here today. We couldn't be happier. I'm the owner of Rubico Gaming. I'm also the chairman of Rubico Acquisition Corp. To my left is Kevin Preston. Kevin is the president of Rubico Acquisition Corp. That'll be the entity that is buying the properties of Louisiana Downs, and to my right is Ryan O'Byrne, our counsel. It has been a long journey. As I said, we're very, very excited to be here. We do have a long list of plans for the property. The property, frankly, has been a little bit of a stepchild by Caesars for the last several years. So it's really an easy process for us to develop what we think is going to be a great operating plan. You know, our plans start with developing a brand new IT system for the property. We're going to be inheriting it without a slot system, without an accounting system, without a POS system, without a payroll system. So there's going to be substantial expenditures from day one. We do have the ability at the time we close, and we are planning on closing here in the next 10 days, subject to obviously your approval and subject to Racing Commission approval. We do have plans with Caesars to have a coordinated effort over the next several months for a transition on the IT system. So Caesars has been very cooperative in that regard, but that will be one of our major expenditures over the next several months. From there, we're looking to expand and improve the gaming floor. We have plans for changing out, whether it's through conversions or new equipment, about 150 machines. And we also have substantial plans to improve the food and beverage operations at the property. I think it's solely deficient from a food and beverage offering standpoint. Our plans include, you know, putting a bar, center bar at the casino. We hope to have a sports betting license, develop a sports book arena. And overall, the property hasn't done a very good job of even integrating racing employees with gaming employees. So culturally, those people see two different sides of the property. We need to integrate that. We want to really improve the racing experience. We want to improve the experience not only for the customer, but for the horsemen themselves. We do want to spend some money out at the barns to improve that facility out there. Both not only for the barns, but for the jockeys. We think the property from a racing standpoint has a unique position, primarily in the state and the surrounding states. There's about 1,600 stalls out there, and we have a beautiful practice as well as a primary track. So we think there's an ability actually to attract horsemen on a year-round basis, both for practice. We're running right now about 130-odd days of racing a year. And so we think there's some, not only are we going to benefit by the improvements on the racing side, but we think we can create something that actually the horsemen in the area, I think, are going to appreciate. We also see, and Kevin can add in any along the way, but there's some longer term improvements that we see for the property. You know, if you drive by our property or future property at any point in time, you'll see a substantial number of trucks parked in the parking lot there. We have a huge parking area, and there's up to over 100 trucks parked there in any particular night. We don't charge. They're not being charged for that. Those are potential customers that we need to attract into the property. So we want to look for ways basically to actually encourage that kind of activity, but encourage it in bringing people into the casino, both for obviously for gaming as well as food and beverage. So there's little simple things like that we're going to be working on immediately. The property itself is going to be branded as Louisiana Downs, so really just dropping the Harrah's name, keeping the same vintage name. We like that. Our Players Club is going to be a little bit of a throwback to the property itself. It's going to be called Club 74. The property originally started in 1974. So we're calling our Players Club Club 74. We're excited about that. And we've had a good team of people already starting to work on marketing efforts and really starting to, and we've had this team of people that we've been frankly paying for the last several months, getting ready for that transition. So all of our marketing documents and our marketing plans are really ready to go. So I will say, while it has been a long journey, I would say, if anything, we're more prepared than ever to take control and hopefully improve the property.
Okay.
I think too is just, you hear, and we've been at the property
Kevin,
a lot.
Mr. President, if you would just identify yourself
I'm sorry.
for the record.
Sure.
Because all this has
Kevin
been
Preston, President, Rubico
recorded.
Gaming.
Thank you.
We've been to the property a lot over the course of the last year, and, we continue to hear that moniker iconic. And so our goal at the end of the day is to bring this iconic track back to an iconic status. And, we've spent a lot of time in the Bossier area and, with the horsemen, with the gaming folks. And so, as Tom said, from a food and beverage standpoint, definitely need to focus on that. New slot product on the floor. And really just, I think it's been the first type of acquisition where the team members are actually very, very excited about us coming in. And you don't really find that too often when you're acquiring someone. But we've got some special team members there, some special folks that we've hired already. And so we're just eager to really get going and make you guys proud. So appreciate that.
Mr. Preston, you are affiliated with a casino license in Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
in Natchez, is that
Natchez,
correct?
Mississippi,
Right.
Magnolia Bluffs Casino and
Right.
Hotel.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want you to know I had a conversation with my counterpart in Mississippi, with the regulator in Mississippi, and he actually had nothing but kind words to say about you and your operation and your commitment to the city of Natchez and the surrounding communities. So, just wanted to let the board know that I did have that conversation with my counterpart in Mississippi.
Thank you. We intend to do the same thing in Bossier. I mean, I think it's about, not what we can do from a gaming perspective, but it's also what we can do for the community. And I think we're really excited about what we can do to help and forge even greater things from an economic development standpoint in Bossier. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. O'Byrne, do you have anything to add this morning, or?
No, sir. We're just
Okay.
glad to be here and appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this from everybody on the regulator side at State Police and the AG's office and staff at the Game Control Board. I know it's been a long journey, but we're very excited to be to this point.
Okay. Mr. Bettinger, would you like to comment on what Ms. Berry had alluded to earlier about some of the language in the report about reluctance to submit information? Was that just a miscommunication? Was it?
Sure.
I'm not quite sure how to frame this, but being that it's been brought out, I would like you to at least have an opportunity to comment on it.
I appreciate that. I would like to I would characterize it probably as a miscommunication. So I think the request, in its simplest form early on, had been that I own a company called Global Leverage Capital, which was referred to in the report. It's in the business of making loans to small private businesses. And we raise money from third parties and run funds. We're a registered investment advisor. I happen to own Global Leverage Capital as one of my other holdings. Global Leverage Capital was originally going to be a lender to this particular company. And from that, I think the conclusion was that Global Leverage Capital and its limited partners would have to come forward for licensing, which is contrary to most states, and it's even contrary to Louisiana law in the sense that if we're a registered investment advisor, that qualifies as us being allowed to be an institutional lender. I think maybe the miscommunication was because I'm the owner of Rubico, I'm the owner of Global Leverage Capital. There's a lot of crossover, and so it certainly can be very confusing. It can be a very confusing organization chart. So the ability for us to bring forward our limited partners is frankly impossible. Large insurance companies around the country, their interest in coming forward for licensing for what would be a small loan was not of any interest, and so that was really the primary refusal. Since then, all the major officers of Global Leverage Capital, even though there's no involvement, they still came forward and submitted for licensing, and so I think we complied in that regard. So at this point, I feel like we've complied with all the information requests that's been asked of us.
And I think that's been testified with State Police and Attorney General's office earlier. Ms. Berry, did you have a comment? Okay.
I assume you have to go before the Racing Commission also?
Yes, next week.
Okay, how would that affect this licensing with us and them also, or has all that been cleared out?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're on the agenda for Tuesday, 10 a.m. for the approval, for consideration of the same approvals or from the racing side.
Okay, so
Right.
we're the gaming side, they're the racing side. So
Right.
Right.
they have to work together. And you don't anticipate any problem with that?
No.
Right.
Thank you.
Good. And we do work together very closely. I actually had a conversation with their chairman, board members, yesterday, and they had actually asked that we approve our end first, and then next Tuesday they're going to take up the Racing Commission's procedure, and then that, if both of those are approved, that will allow you to go and actually close on the property, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
How that's going to work. You do intend to apply for a sports bet license?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that there's a December 31st deadline by law, not by board rule, but by statute, that you have to put in your application?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you intend to do that?
Yes.
Okay, great. You are also aware of some procurement goals and requirements that we have as a board in terms of hires of Louisiana residents,
Yes.
minority employees, female employees, procurement of goods and services. There are certain goals and
Yes.
requirements out there, and you're very aware of those.
Yes.
And, okay. We do take those very seriously.
Yes.
We know there are extenuating circumstances from time to time. It's not too often though that Bossier gets hit with a hurricane, so like we do down here in South Louisiana.
Yep.
But okay, just want to put that on the record. Mr. Hebert.
Yes,
Attorney
Chairman. I
General's
just
office.
wanted to also make sure that the gentlemen were aware that in addition to applying with the Gaming Control Board or prior to applying for a sports wagering license, that you have to seek approval from the Racing Commission to apply.
Correct.
Yes, and that's actually on the agenda for Tuesday as well.
Okay.
So they'll
Just wanted
take
to
up
make
both
sure.
the approval of the transaction and the approval to file for the sports betting license.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hebert. Mr. Avant, please.
Is the hotel, it's independent that's on site, isn't it? And is there any plans from Rubico to develop rooms or anything such
Yeah,
like?
yeah, there's actually a couple of hotels on the property. They are completely independent. We don't have any goals, any goals at this point to add rooms. I think we have other expenditures we prioritize, more entertainment and feature expenditures that we'd do before we add hotel rooms. But I think the one thing we need to do a better job of is coordinating with the hotels on the property so that if we do have players who do need rooms, that we can provide that to them as part of an amenity. But as far as us building new rooms, it's probably not in our immediate plans. What we would really love to do is we have that huge part. We have a lot of indoor facility and we have a lot of outdoor facility. We would really love to take advantage of both of those to add more features to the property. What those features are is kind of TBD, but you can imagine they could be anywhere from golf to bowling to RV parks to truck stops. So I think we have a very clean palette to work from.
Tell us about the 100 trucks that are there. They're 18-wheelers, aren't they?
Yes.
They are trucks.
Yeah.
And is that a growing thing to park at night places?
It seems to have been growing for the last couple years there.
West of Shreveport, there's a lot that used to be nothing. Now there's 500 18-wheelers parked all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going, where did they park before?
Right.
I know.
Maybe they kept driving.
So anyway, tell us about that a little bit. Is that in your plans to get more 18-wheelers and truckers and?
I think we need to figure out a plan to take advantage of it. Those people are parking on our lots. They're at the far end of the lot. They're not being charged to park there, so they're parking for free. One would argue we're actually creating some damage to the parking lot. But we want to flip that on its head and try to bring those people into the facility, get them signed up as players, have a better food and beverage offering, actually try to market it and say, look, come and park here, and if you're parking out here, maybe we can give you some type of deal on food or some type of, if you're signing up as a player, you're going to get some free play in the casino. But we need to get those people to walk across the parking lot. Right now, they're actually not, they're parking there for free, and then they're moving out the next day. They're not even walking into the facility.
And we early on, I mean, we even talked potentially, and obviously there's still discussions, but even some sort of travel center right on site that can, we could utilize. So there's a lot of things that we've been, sort of discussing, because again, as Tom said, I mean, it's sort of a clean slate there with a lot of land, a lot of opportunity, and so we're just excited to sort of start having these discussions on what's best for not only the community but for us as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What's the total size?
Thank you, Ms. Avan. I'm going to get Mr. Poole, please. Okay. Go ahead.
Am I live? Yeah.
You're on.
What's the total size of that acreage, that whole piece of property? Do you know right offhand?
About 265 acres. Yeah.
There's plenty of room to do plenty of stuff there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that parking lot is large.
Well, I know I have a lot of friends that live up in that area, and they remember the glory days of what it was like in the 80s and the 90s and how much attraction it drew there and the business that was there. And people that live up there are anxious for something to happen in a good way to that property.
Yeah.
And they waited for a long time, too.
Yep.
And to your point, I mean, a couple of things that really excite us about the property is there's a new interchange going in across the street that's going to connect into Barksdale Air Force Base. So that's 17,000 military personnel and civilians who work on that base every day. So that's a wonderful connection that hadn't existed before. The property in the past has been marketed more to the same type of people that the riverboats are marketing to. So it's a much broader regional marketing effort. Our goal is to make it much more local oriented. It really should be a locals property is really what it is. People, frankly, aren't going to drive unless it's a race day. They're not driving from Dallas to go to Louisiana Downs to play slots, right?
Right.
But your local certainly will. And that's the people we should be getting. Those people shouldn't be coming, I hate to talk to them in front of my competitors, but they shouldn't be going to the riverboats. They should be coming to see us. So that's really going to be our plan.
Right. We only regulate the video gaming side, but the racing side, I think, could be a huge draw. I think the property just needs to look better, feel better, and be run better to draw more people in there. So
couldn't agree more.
We're counting on y'all to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Poole. Ms. Berry, I think, has one further.
I just have one more comment. I don't want you to think that we're grilling you to death here, but we're responsible to the citizens of Louisiana for the gaming portion of your investment, and we just have to do our due diligence and ask the correct questions. But I just want to comment that I sincerely, on behalf of the board, appreciate your investment in Louisiana and in Louisiana Downs, and we hope we can work together for a very, very successful entity for y'all. So thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Berry. Gentlemen, I will tell you, I was serving in the House of Representatives many years ago, and I had jet black hair back then, by the way, and it's a true story. But the horse racing industry in this state literally came to a standstill. It was on the verge of total collapse. I had a track back in my old house district, Delta Downs in Vinton. I live in the Lake Charles area. And it was the legislation that created as we called it then, the slots at the track, but the casino component that actually saved the horse racing industry. But we've never forgotten that and I'm asking you to never forget that you're buying a racetrack. I've had this conversation with the Racing Commission, and they're very excited about working with you. They're very concerned about the future of Louisiana Downs. That track has a history of some outstanding races. There's just a real historical component to Louisiana Downs that we want to bring back to this state. So it's part of our heritage here in Louisiana. It's part of our culture, and we want to make it prosper, and we want to do everything that we can. I echo what Vice Chairman Berry has said, that we welcome your investment. We've been very concerned about that property for some time now, and we know that you're making a I'm not going to call it a risky investment, but you're going out there, you're taking a chance, and we appreciate that investment that you're making. So, are there any other questions from board members or comments, or anybody? Ms. Hamilton Acker.
I do have one question with regards to your coordinated efforts with transition plans with Caesars. I would imagine it also includes working to try and maintain the current workforce.
Yeah.
As best as possible.
We're not, everyone that is currently employed is staying employed. We've already confirmed all that. And then obviously we're adding additional jobs to that as well.
Great.
And one thing for Chairman, just to talk briefly about what you had said earlier, I'm happy to say that the majority of our new executive staff is primarily women and minorities. So we're happy about that as well.
Great. Okay. Is that it, Ms. Acker?
Yes, it is. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much. Okay, gentlemen, is there anything you want to close on or say before we move on? Or?
We appreciate all the support and all your help. We're looking forward to the next step.
Great. We, if this is approved in the next few minutes, we are going to look forward to working with you, and we will continue to take a hard look at your financing as we go forward. That's always a concern, whether you've got the financial wherewithal to run that property in the way that it should be run. But according to State Police and Attorney General's office, they feel comfortable that you do, and we hope that we continue. And we'll wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you
on this. And I look forward to personally visiting the property relatively soon.
Absolutely.
So,
love to have you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Vice Chairman Berry has made a motion that we adopt the resolution to transfer the ownership of Harris Bossier City Investment Company to Rubico. And do I have a second? Mr. Jackson has seconded that motion. Ms. Thurman, would you read the resolution, please?
On the 21st day of October 2021, the Louisiana Gaming Control Board did, in a duly noticed public meeting, consider the joint amended petition of Harris Shreveport, Bossier City Investment, LLC, and Rubico Gaming, LLC, for approval of the transfer of all membership interests of Harris Bossier City Investment Company, LLC, DBA Harris Louisiana Downs, to Rubico Acquisition Corp., a subsidiary of Rubico Gaming, the transfer of certain of Louisiana Downs real property assets from Harris Bossier City, LLC, a subsidiary of Vici Properties, Incorporated, to RAC. RAC's assignment to LAD Land Co., LLC, and LAD Land Co., LLC's leaseback to licensee, and the financing to be entered into by Rubico for funding the transactions, and upon motion duly made and seconded, the board adopted this resolution. Whereas on September 3rd, 2020, Rubico and HSBCI did enter into an equity purchase agreement providing for the transfer of all membership interests of Louisiana Downs to RAC, and whereas on September 30th, 2020, Rubico and Vici did enter into an agreement of the sale providing for the transfer of Louisiana Downs real property assets used in the operation of its racetrack to RAC. Whereas RAC proposes to assign its rights, title, and interest in the real property assets to LAD Land Co., LLC, which will then lease back those real property assets to Louisiana Downs. And whereas the transfer of the membership of interest in the licensee, sale, assignment, and lease of real property, and the related agreements entered into in connection therewith require board approval, including, without limitation, a portion of the financing of the transactions. Be it resolved, the transfer of 100% of the equity interests in Louisiana Downs from HSBCI to RAC, pursuant to that certain equity purchase agreement dated September 3rd, 2020, is hereby approved. Be it resolved that the sale and purchase of the rights, title, and interest in the property pursuant to and described with more particularity in the real property sale agreement and exhibits therewith by and between Vici and RAC, dated September 3rd, 2020, is hereby approved. Be it resolved that the execution of the assignment and assumption agreement by and between RAC as assigner and LAD Landco LLC as assignee is hereby approved. Be it resolved that the execution of the commercial lease by and between LAD Landco LLC as landlord and Louisiana Downs as tenant is hereby approved. Be it resolved that Rubico's request for approval of a $16 million senior secured revolving credit facility is hereby approved. Be it resolved that Rubico's request for approval of a $3 million subordinated loan agreement is hereby approved. Be it resolved that the execution of all documents necessary to effectuate the foregoing approvals, including the financing arrangements, is hereby approved. Be it resolved that the approvals granted hereby are subject to the conditions set forth in the Statement of Conditions and Acknowledgement and Acceptance of Conditions, a copy of which is attached hereto and incorporated herein. Thus done and signed in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, this 21st day of October 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Thurman. We do have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. Ms. Thurman, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Avant?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton Acker?
Yes.
Ms. Trailer?
Yes.
And Chairman Johns.
Yes.
It is unanimous.
By unanimous vote, we have adopted this resolution. Gentlemen, congratulations. You're one step forward to owning a racetrack, and we welcome you to Louisiana, and we look forward to really working with you as we move forward on this. And so best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank State Police and the Attorney General's office for their hard work on this. This has been going on for over a year now, and I know a lot of time, effort, sweat, and tears has been put into this. So State Police and Attorney General's office, thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Fantasy sports. We are considering an application for fantasy sports by Fanduel Incorporated.
Good morning, Chairman Johns and members of the board. I'm Assistant Attorney General Alana Murray, appearing with Ms. Tammy Hopp with the Louisiana State Police Gaming Audit Division and Mr. Rodney Perkins with the Gaming Enforcement Division. We are here in the matter of the consideration of the Fantasy Sports Contest Operator application of Fanduel Incorporated. Pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute 27301, the board is the sole regulator of paid fantasy sports contests in Louisiana, and it is charged with issuing or denying licenses for fantasy sports contest operators. State Police's Gaming Division has reviewed the financial circumstances of the applicant and completed its suitability investigations for the applicant, its parent companies, and its principals. It also reviewed the applicant's financial statements, platform specifics, and other criteria required under gaming law and rule. At this time, State Police will now report its findings to the board.
Good morning, Chairman Johns and board members. My name is Tammy Hopp. I'm an auditor with Louisiana State Police's Gaming Enforcement Division. Fanduel, Inc., a subsidiary of Fanduel Group, has submitted an application for a fantasy sports contest operator's license. Fanduel was originally founded in 2009 as a fantasy sports operator, with DraftKings as their principal competitor. Fanduel Group currently offers sportsbook, daily fantasy sports, online casino, and horse race betting products. As a daily fantasy sports operator, Fanduel provides users with technology that establishes daily fantasy sports contests, distributes the prizes, and performs other administrative activities. The daily fantasy sports revenue is generated from contest entry fees received, net prizes, and customer incentives awarded to users. Fanduel launched its first daily fantasy sports mobile app in 2015. In addition to offering daily fantasy sports in 45 states and the District of Columbia, they offer free play contests in 50 states and the District of Columbia. Since this report was distributed to the board, the Arizona Department of Gaming approved Fanduel as a daily fantasy sports and sportsbook operator. Fanduel expects to generate approximately $1.5 million in daily fantasy sports revenues for its first year of operations in Louisiana. Since Fanduel is not invested in a brick-and-mortar facility in the state at this time, we feel there's minimal risk to Louisiana if Fanduel does not achieve its projected revenues. In conclusion, there is cause for concern financially since the applicant's parent company, Fanduel Group, has reported operating losses and negative cash flows for the past several years, even after an influx of cash from an intercompany loan from their parent, Flutter Entertainment, in 2019. With negative operating cash flows, there's an uncertainty as whether the financial posture will improve in the near future. According to Flutter's June 30th, 2021 interim results and outlook, they expect the U.S. segment to generate a positive EBITDA in 2023 when the positive contribution from its customers acquired pre-2023 will more than offset the cost of the ongoing customer acquisitions. Otherwise, no financial issues came to the audit section's attention that were of such nature as to preclude the board from approving the license issuance for a period of 3 years. Now I will turn over to Rodney Perkins with Louisiana State Police.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Good morning.
I'm Criminal Investigator Rodney Perkins with Louisiana State Police Gaming Enforcement Division. On June 9th, 2021, Fanduel, Inc., a New York corporation, submitted a fantasy sports contest operator application. Additionally, the applicant and its shareholders submitted a Level 1 Part A suitability gaming application. The applicant is owned indirectly by Flutter Entertainment, PLC, a United Kingdom corporation which is publicly traded. In accordance with Louisiana rules and regulations, a background investigation was conducted on Fanduel, Inc., its direct and indirect shareholders, officers, directors, and persons with 5% or more ownership or economic interest in the applicant. The background investigations consisted of inquiries to federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies, civil jurisdictions, gaming regulatory agencies, and the Louisiana Department of Revenue. Inquiries were also made into computerized criminal history files. I found no information that would preclude any of them from participating in the Louisiana gaming industry.
Okay.
And if it's the board's pleasure to approve the application of Fanduel, Inc., a resolution has been prepared for the board's adoption and signature. And I'd also like to mention that a representative of Fanduel is here today.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask Fanduel to come to the table for a second. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your report.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman,
Good
members
morning.
of the board. Janet Bowles on behalf of Fanduel, and with me is Stacy Stern. She's vice president from Fanduel, and she flew in from Phoenix, Arizona, to be with us today.
Good.
And I just want to thank the staff, all your hard workers with the state that have worked so hard on this application.
Well, thank you, Ms. Bowles. And Stacy, welcome to Louisiana this morning. So
Good morning, Chairman.
Good to
Thank
see you again.
Great to be here.
Any comments that y'all would like to make before questions? Or
I would just like to respond that we're delighted to be getting into the business. We hope that you approve our regulatory status today. The concerns that were expressed with regard to the negative cash flow were the exact concerns expressed for DraftKings. It's just an aspect of getting the regulatory approvals in all the jurisdictions and getting them up and running. And as was recognized, Flutter does anticipate a positive cash flow by 2023. And this is just part of getting up and running. They funded it. They anticipated they would not be making money at this juncture, but we look forward to making a lot of money and making money for the state of Louisiana.
okay, and that would have been my only question, according to the report that was given here at the table this morning. How many states is Fanduel in now? Do you know?
With the addition of Arizona, it'll be 46.
46. Wow. Okay. Any questions from our board members? Okay, so we actually have no risk. I mean, you're the one at risk on this. So, but we do look forward to working with you on this as we move forward, especially with sportsbook coming. It's just a hot item here in Louisiana right now, I can assure you. I think you're going to do well here. So, okay, we would ask for a motion to adopt the resolution to grant Fanduel a Louisiana license. Mr. Avant has moved that we adopt the resolution. I have a second. Mr. Jackson has seconded that motion. Ms. Thurman, would you read the resolution, please?
On the 21st day of October 2021, the Louisiana Gaming Control Board did, in a duly noticed public meeting, consider the license application of Fanduel, Inc., and upon motion duly made and seconded, the board adopted this resolution. Be it resolved that Fanduel, Inc., license number F0117034039, be approved for a fantasy sports contest operator license for a term of 3 years, commencing October 21st, 2021. Thus done and signed in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, this 21st day of October 2021.
Right, very short and sweet resolution, right? So, okay, Ms. Thurman, would you call the roll? We do have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. Ms. Thurman, would you call the roll?
Mr. Avant?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis? Yes. Mr. Poole?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton Acker? Yes. Ms. Traylor? Yes. Chairman Johns?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you unanimous vote. Welcome to Louisiana. And ladies, thank you for being here this morning.
Appreciate it so much.
Thank you for flying in. Thank you very much. Okay, next we'll get into some issues with sports wagering. Part of your packet, members of the board, is a sports wagering catalog that Louisiana State Police has put together. It is very extensive. Major McNeil, would you like to comment on what y'all have done here? And
Sure. So one of the processes of the whole sports wagering process is we have to create a sports wagering catalog. So the catalog is, if you review it, is the current bets that we're going to allow for which sports and what entities that must be approved or sanction that sport in order for them to place the wager. At that point, the casinos are submitting their house rules to us. And in the house rules, we specify exactly how each wager or what can be wagered on the specific items listed in the catalog. This is not a final product in the sense that we wanted to bring the first one to the board for approval. After that, the chairman has the ability to approve further sporting events. So as other licensees wish to add additional events or sports to the state for possible wagering, they'll have a process where they submit that to the board, and then we'll go through the process of reviewing and seeing how that's done. It's spelled out also back in the rules that we approved back in August and in September.
And you will notice in your packet there is a copy of an approval form in the event that there is a special event, a new league, a new wager, some type of a new event that one would be interested in getting approved. We would ask, it's going to actually be online. By the time we get all of this up and running, we'll be online. And we would ask for a 7-day window to request for the special event. So that's going to be part of what we're adopting today. So members, I just want you to feel comfortable that you're going to be able to now bet on badminton, on snooker, on handball, and everything else in the sporting world out there. But it's kind of incredible reading this, what goes on in the world of sports betting. So, Major McNeil, to you and all of your staff and state police, thank y'all for this. Is a lot of hard work here.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay, I would. Are there any questions from the board members on the catalog? I would entertain a motion that we adopt the catalog. Ms. Lewis, you have a question? Yes. Okay. Wait, we have a question. Okay.
I perhaps overlooked it. Is horse racing not on this list for sportsbook?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, ma'am. That's separate. That has to be done at a parimutuel facility, so it cannot be done to a sports book.
Okay.
They're separate.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good question. Okay. Ms. Berry has a question.
What is snooker?
It's a form.
But it has the little bumpers in the middle, and you get a white ball or red ball.
Okay.
I remember I Googled that's what that was.
I guess that's what I should have done.
A lot of these items.
Yeah, it's kind of like bumper pool.
It's amazing.
There you go.
Thank you.
I remembered as a child. So, okay. Do I have a motion that we adopt this the sports betting catalog? Ms. Hamilton Acker has moved that we adopt the catalog. Ms. Berry has seconded that motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is adopted and the catalog, sports betting catalog, is adopted. While we're on sports betting, I would like to just mention that, you know, we're getting numerous calls from the media, from individuals, from people on the street. Everybody in the state is really wondering where we are on sports betting. I will tell you that we're working through a process right now for the in-house licensing. As you know, that's going to come first. The 20 possible applicants are being considered right now. State Police is doing an incredible job. They got set back by Hurricane Ida when they were deployed for hurricane recovery, but they're back at it, and I'm not going to give you a definitive date of when we're going to issue licenses, but it's going to be soon. So maybe before LSU gets a new head coach. I don't know about that. So we'll see. But the other issue, and there's been rumors that online sports betting is going to be done very, very quickly, as there were some rumors that this coming weekend that there were going to be some online sports betting in Louisiana. I will just say publicly that that's not going to happen. That is strictly rumor, and we are going through an extensive process on online licensing. It's a very complicated process, and we're going to do it the right way. We only get one shot at rolling this out, so we're going to do it the right way. And Major, anything you want to comment on, or have I said it all? Or maybe said too much?
Great job.
Okay. Thank you, Major. So, but thank you, State Police, for what you're doing, and thank you, the Attorney General's Office, for what you're doing to trying to get this up and moving. We want it probably as bad as anybody else. So thank you very much. Okay, the last thing on our agenda today, we have two proposed settlements, and Good morning again.
Good morning again.
Okay.
Chairman Johns and board members. I'm Assistant Attorney General Alana Murray here in the matter of the settlement of KMY 5123 Canal Boulevard LLC, doing business as Cask. This settlement addresses the Type 1 licensee's failure to timely submit the required annual fee and supporting documents. On March 9th of 2020, the division mailed a video gaming advisory notice to the licensee informing them of the requirement to submit the annual fee and forms no later than June 30th of 2020. On July 1st of 2021, the division received the required annual renewal forms and fee. The civil penalty contained in this settlement is $750, which is an amount consistent with violations of this type. The settlement has been signed by the hearing officer and is now before the board for final approval, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Is there anyone present from the licensee that would like to make a comment, or you're in concurrence with the settlement then? Okay, thank you very much for being here today. Okay, I would entertain a motion that we approve the settlement of KMY 5123 Canal Boulevard LLC. And so moved by Mr. Jackson, second by Mr. Poole. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, is there any objection to that motion? There is no objection. The settlement is approved.
Thank you.
And we have one more?
There is one more.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Your Honor, I'm sorry. Good morning, Chairman Johns, board members, sorry. I'm Assistant Attorney General Shanna Sizemore, here in the matter of the settlement of Hummel Entertainment Group, LLC, doing business as Cajun Mike's, which holds a Type 1 video draw poker gaming license. This settlement addresses the late submission of annual forms and fees that are required to be submitted to the division no later than July 1st of each year. The licensee did not submit the annual forms and fees for the year 2020 until July 27, 2021, which gave rise to a violation of Louisiana gaming law. The civil penalty contained in this settlement is $750, which is an amount that is well established for violations of this type. The settlement has been signed by the hearing officer and is now before the board for final approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, do I have a motion? Mr. Poole moves that we approve the settlement of Hummel Entertainment Group, LLC, doing business as Cajun Mike's. Have a second by Vice Chairman Berry. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to that motion? Hearing none, that settlement is adopted. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Chairman Johns.
Okay. Is there any other business from the board members? Anybody else have anything? Thank you all for being here today, and I would entertain a motion that we adjourn. Ms. Hamilton-Acker moves that we adjourn, and I have a second from Mr. Jackson. Any opposition to that motion? Hearing none, we are now adjourned. Members, thank you for being here today, and to the public, thank you for your interest.